This video is made possible by donations to the United States Lighthouse Society from people like you.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. I am Jeremy D'Entremont. I'm the historian for the U.S. Lighthouse Society, and welcome to our second edition of Lighthearted Live. Today is March 26, 2026, and I'm going to introduce my co-host, who is Sarah McHugh, for tonight. Sarah, you're here somewhere. I know you are. There you are.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm good. I'm really glad you could be here. I know we were just chatting, and just like seconds ago, you finished interviewing somebody for your podcast, Be the Light, that you also do for the U.S. Lighthouse Society. So that's exciting.
Yes, I did. Very excited. Episode number 3 coming out soon. I had a really great conversation. So excited to get that out.
Yeah. Is that scheduled yet? Do you know when that's
not scheduled yet, but if you're looking for updates on Be the Light, you can find them on our Instagram at Be the Light Pod. It's a great place to find all the information. And when a new episode drops, that is the first place you'll find it, along with the United States Lighthouse Society website and Instagram account as well.
Right. And of course, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those things as well.
Yeah.
So that's great. Looking forward to it. You're doing a great job with that. Just I want to get back to you in a second, Sarah, but just before that and before we get to our guest, I was thinking about maybe saying a little bit about the podcast, because I think we probably have new people. We just started doing this on YouTube, last month. We're going to do a monthly live episode on YouTube, aiming for the last Thursday, or at least late in the month, most likely the last Thursday of each month. But for people who don't know, we've been doing the podcast, mostly audio podcast, since June of 2019. There have been about 400 episodes, if you count the episodes that weren't numbered, a lot of special ones and so forth. So it's hard to believe, but about 400 episodes. And lighthearted means people have lighthouses in their hearts. That's the idea behind it. And we've talked with ex-lighthouse keepers, with preservationists, authors, writers of all kinds, even poets. Excuse me. I have a little bit of a cold. I'm heavily doped on Dayquil, so hopefully I'll make it through okay. But anyway, so we've had naturalists and all kinds of people related to lighthouses in one way or another. I have really had a great time doing the podcast, and I learn new things with every episode. And it's neat. It's a kind of a neat way to bring people in the lighthouse world together too, and so we can get to know each other a little bit. I don't think people need to be lighthouse nuts to enjoy the podcast, but it probably helps. And I certainly consider myself a lighthouse nut. I think you probably do too, Sarah.
I do. I think other people think that about me also.
Yeah. And your dog is a lighthouse nut too, Coda.
Yes, he is. Coda the keeper.
Yeah. And you have an Instagram account where you have pictures of Coda at lighthouses, right?
Yes, I do. He comes with me on many of my lighthouse travels, as many as he's allowed on. And we'll take pictures in front of lighthouses and then give a little background on the lighthouse, little education, preservation, and then if it's in a cool area, things to do, little trip itineraries and things like that.
I know you're a really busy person. You've a couple of jobs. You work at UMass Boston. You're also a fitness instructor, right, Sarah?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Wow. And you're doing the Chicago Marathon, I believe, coming up. We are, along with tour leader Tina Hahn, so I think maybe in the audience right now, doing a Down East Maine tour in June, and I think you're doing the marathon right after that, if I remember right.
I am doing the Lake Placid half marathon right after that.
Oh, okay.
In training for the Chicago Marathon, which is in October.
Okay.
That will be my first marathon. So I definitely, while we're on the trip, we'll need to be doing some early morning running as well.
Yeah. I think you have some beautiful places to run.
Yeah,
So let me be the first to wish you good luck with the half marathon and the marathon. So at this point, we should introduce our guest. So if you could help me with that, Sarah, that would be great. So you can go ahead with that.
Sure. The establishment of a new shipping channel led to the building of a lighthouse at Graves Ledge in outer Boston Harbor. Construction took place from 1903 to 1905. The granite blocks of the tower were cut at Rockport on Cape Ann. Work at the lighthouse began in June of 1903.
Yep. The tower is 113 feet tall. When it was first lighted on the night of September 1st, 1905, it was the most powerful lighthouse in Massachusetts history. A huge first-order Fresnel lens from Paris rotated on 400 pounds of mercury. It was later upgraded to 3.2 million candle power, and it was for many years the most powerful light in New England.
The light was automated in 1976 and the keepers were removed. Weather and vandalism took their toll. The old walkway that led to the oil house was destroyed by storms. Under the guidelines of the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act, the lighthouse was sold in a government auction in September 2013 to businessman David Waller.
You know, Graves Lighthouse is kind of like an old friend to me. I grew up on the North Shore of Boston, actually in Lynn, Mass., same place where Dave Waller grew up, and lived in Winthrop for a long time, right on Boston Harbor. And my wife and I, for a while, lived in a place with a deck where you could see Graves Light from the deck. And I visited the lighthouse, Graves Light, for the first time in June of 2001 by helicopter. It was absolutely incredible. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen from that day that I took from the helicopter. Here it is. And just amazing. What a memorable day that was. And the helicopter set down on the platform right next to the lighthouse, and I got to climb to the top. Here's one of the pictures from inside the lighthouse from that day. And you'll see, we'll show some pictures later. It looks a lot better, a lot better since Dave has restored it. But you can see the beautiful enameled brick on the interior, which is pretty unusual and very beautiful. So let's go back to here. And so at this point, well, actually, no, before we actually bring Dave into the virtual studio here, I want to play a short video. Before I do that, I'm going to let you finish the introduction, Sarah, as I know I don't want to skip over the last part of it. Go ahead. Yeah.
I know. Well, I'm excited about the video because I've seen it and it's pretty cool. So Dave Waller owns a video special effects company headquartered on Newbury Street in Boston, and he also collects and restores old neon signs. He and his wife, Lynn, a graphic designer, live in a restored fire station in the Boston suburb of Malden.
Yeah, I've been there. It's incredible. He lives in a museum, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. It's less than a minute long, but it's kind of a nice way to help set the stage here. Here we go.
I was never a lighthouse person, but there was an auction a friend of mine put me in touch with from the government. They were selling Graves Light, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I just get a free trip and go and check it out. So came out here with the other bidders. It just took my breath away, and I just couldn't stop thinking about the fact that this magnificent place was actually for sale. It got me thinking, well, wouldn't it be fun to have a little summer cottage? But instead of driving 2.5 hours to get to Winnipesaukee, you could have a place all by yourself about 20 minutes from home. I kind of tricked my wife. She was away and I just texted her. I said, hey, can we buy a lighthouse? And she said, sure. So I was like, well, stop asking. She said, sure. So that's what got it going. I wound up with it.
Yep, there is more to the story, and we're going to talk about that now. So I want to welcome Dave into the studio here. Let's get Dave in here. There he is.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Keeper Dave in full. Thank you for dressing for the occasion.
I always dress like this.
Well, you must be crazy, but in a good way.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, and you're in your Malden Fire Station home.
That's right.
Which is, like I said, like a museum as well. You have not only a collection of neon signs, but aids to navigation related things as well all around you there.
Yeah, a few trinkets I picked up, and we've got more in the lighthouse. We've decorated the lighthouse with a lot of things that were specific to Boston Harbor. So shipwreck pieces and oil paintings and things that matter that have really local history.
Cool. I feel lucky to have been able to visit there a few years ago. We did a podcast interview in your home, so thank you again for that. So I'll start the Inquisition here. Okay. Let's just talk a little bit about your background. Again, I know you're from the North Shore, from Lynn, City of Sin, where I'm also from. And I think I might have mentioned we also went to the same college, Emerson College in Boston. So have a few things in common. Do you think growing up on the North Shore of Boston kind of contributed to your developing a love for history and the ocean and things like that?
I think definitely. My dad had a sailboat, and we sailed out of Salem Harbor when we were kids, and sailed right by Graves. And so we got to know a lot of the maritime history with reading Edward Rowe Snow books, and going to some little nautical museums and so forth. So we always really loved being near the ocean, and all all the tales. Some of them true, some of them not.
Yeah. Sarah, I know you want to ask a question, but I'm going to play, since you mentioned Edward Rowe Snow, I'm going to play a very brief clip here, silent clip of Edward Rowe Snow. I don't think you've ever seen this before, Dave, but this is circa 1960s, I think early 1960s. For those who don't know, Edward Rowe Snow is a very popular historian in the Boston area. He lived 1902 to 1982. He wrote a zillion books about maritime history, lectured all over the place, was on radio and TV, big influence on me as a kid. And he brought groups of people out to various places, including Graves Light. So in a second, you're going to see him rowing a boat with people coming from the lighthouse. That's him with the white hair rowing the boat there. So I just thought you might enjoy seeing that. And there's a little bit of aerial of the lighthouse here as well with the lens.
Oh, that's fabulous. I've never seen this.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah. I'll send you a copy, Dave.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And that is that. So I thought that might be cool.
That is very cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Switch gears a little bit. Dave, we know you have a special effects company in Boston called Brickyard VFX. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's not mine anymore. I sold it a couple of years ago to my employees, but they're running it very well. It started in 1999, and we do visual effects a lot of times for TV commercials, but really it's kind of blossomed into visual effects for almost any visual media. So it's a great staff, and we've won some awards and had a lot of fun. It's been a really good business.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize you had sold it. Does that
I
mean
did.
are you retired or semi-retired at this point?
I made myself an employee
Okay.
for a couple of years just to kind of help out with the transition. But the people that are running it now have worked for me for years and years, and they were real hustlers, and they really had a lot of passion for it. And I just thought, yeah, it might be good to pass it along and then do something else. So my wife Lynn and I bought a neon sign shop that was closing. The owners were retiring in Somerville, called Neon Williams, and so that's what we do every day is make neon signs for people.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And speaking of neon signs, how did that all start? You collecting and restoring?
I started
neon
when I
signs?
was probably 8 or 9, collecting signs, and just I collected everything. I collected maritime things and stamps and coins and bottles and just weird things. But neon signs, really, I got a real love for it, and it still continues to this day.
Mm-hmm. It's very cool. I really love
Thanks.
seeing that stuff in your home.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like you're a collector of many things and a man of many interests, which is really cool.
Thank you.
On that note, how did you and your family come to living in a restored fire station?
Well, Lynn and I had just gotten married, and we were driving around looking for a house to buy. We didn't have much money, but we saw a burnt down fire station in Malden, and just thought maybe it's for sale. So Lynn called up the fire department, and they said, call the city hall, and they called them, and they decided to hold an auction, and they auctioned it off to us. They were a little bit embarrassed that it had burned down, so they might have wanted to get rid of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the roof had collapsed into the middle of the house, and there were no windows or doors. It was a real mess. So we spent years fixing it up and turning it into a home, and then had kids, and we're still here now.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to mention that as we did last time in the last live stream, people want to pay attention to the hats that I'm wearing. don't know if you can see what I'm wearing right now, but I will have probably 3 or 4 hats on during this. And if you want to win a U.S. Lighthouse Society baseball cap, pay attention to my caps. But don't try to answer the contest question until we ask it near the end. So just had to get that in. We could talk a little bit about the auction itself. I know there's kind of a bidding war, right, Dave, with our friend Bobby Sager. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it started kind of sleepy around $10,000, and I was like, we could put that on the Amex card, you know. But then it quickly rose, and there were about 10 bidders, and it was the kind of auction where if nobody bids on it, a 24-hour clock starts, and if nobody bids within that time, it's sold. But there was another bidder out there who bid right at the last second every day for weeks and weeks. And we drove the price up to quite a lot of money, a lot more than I could afford. And then one day, that person that was bidding didn't bid, and we were having pancakes here in the kitchen, and it ticked over, and I got the blandest email from the federal government ever. It said, "Congratulations, bidder number 10, you have just won Graves Lighthouse at auction." And so we really didn't know what to say. We were speechless for a while, and then asked my mom if we could help, if she could help by mortgaging her house to pay for it. We mortgaged our house, and then we kicked in our 401k and scraped up enough to get the payment on it. And then the next day, the other bidder called us or found us. We were in the newspaper, and he wanted to buy it from us and give us a little profit. And we told him, hell no, not going to happen. But he was a nice enough guy, and we kept in contact. Then a couple of years later, we made a deal that worked out really well where we split it. And so the Sager family owns half of it, and the Waller family owns the other half, and we share it. And they're fun people, so it's worked out really nice. And it's also, it's an expensive little proposition, so having another family involved is it's key to making it happen.
So it's divided in half. Is that like vertically right down the middle of the whole tower?
Yeah, they get the north side and we get the south side. No, we just do it week by week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when the auction was going on, a representative of Bobby Sager contacted me, and it was asking questions about the lighthouse. That was interesting. And okay. I could be, it's a while ago now, but I think somebody from your end also contacted me during that period. Does that sound...
I don't really have much of an end except me, so it must have been me.
I think so. So I was, I was not playing any favorites. It was interesting to watch. That's for sure. And what an
you know why? It's because the photo that was on the auction site advertising it was your picture and your name was on it. So that's how I found it. Yeah.
It might even be the picture I just showed. It was one of those aerial pictures. I think it might have been that same one. Yeah. But Bobby Sager, what an interesting person he is. I visited him at his condo overlooking Boston Common a few years ago. And of course, he's buddies with Sting, the singer, and so forth. And very interesting guy. Yeah,
he is. And he owns Minot's Light and Boone Island Light as well.
Right. And I think a lighthouse in Michigan also. So he's collecting them, kind of like the rest of us collect little models we put on our mantelpiece. He's collecting lighthouses. Yeah.
Well, I'll jump into the next question. It sounds like your wife, Lynn, was on board for a burnt down firehouse for your first home. Was she in agreement right away that owning a lighthouse was a good idea?
She's not a boat person. And unfortunately, this is one of those lighthouses that it's really the only way you can get there unless you have a helicopter. She's not a helicopter person either. And so it took her a while to get her sea legs, I would say, and be comfortable going out on a boat. And I think even now, if the weather's rough, she wouldn't go. We've had a few scrapes, near misses out there. And as you know, anybody on the water, it can turn quickly. You can have a decent forecast and it can kind of turn bad. So you got to really be careful out there when you're offshore. And I think that she was very happy out there on a sunny day, sunset, stars in the sky, all that stuff with friends. That's her game. I don't mind it a little rough. I'm going out tomorrow, actually. But the seas are only 4 feet, so that's not too bad.
Only 4 feet.
Yes.
Wow. So when you got ownership of the lighthouse, what? How bad was it, and what did you tackle first?
It was pretty bad. They had stored oil in the cisterns inside the lighthouse, so there were hundreds of gallons of fuel that were old and there, and the paint was all peeling, and the windows leaked, and there was a lot of water damage inside, dead birds, and just rotted floors. I always say that they don't usually fix them up and then sell them the way you might do with your own house. The Coast Guard sort of doesn't really have the time to polish them before they put them up for auction. So we knew we had a lot to do, and the first thing to do when you have a structure like that is to stop the water from coming in, because there's no
Mhm.
point, in doing anything when there's still water coming in. So we did the masonry work and sealed up the windows and so forth to keep it dry before we started any interior work at all. So
Mhm.
a lot of sort of money, not a lot of showy stuff happens before you can start to make it pretty inside. So that was our first order of business for the first 2 years. And then we started working on the interior and then adding the systems, like we have a water maker where we can pump seawater in and make fresh water. Everything is run on solar power with batteries and a wind turbine to make all of our electricity. Um, we've got several like LED lighting instead of incandescent lighting, just to use a little bit less power and try to be careful with those batteries. And then we just decided to appoint it similar to the way the lighthouse service had built it, but we changed the configuration of the floors, and we added a bathroom which they never had, which Lynn said would be a nice thing for visitors. So we have
Yeah.
a toilet and a shower and all that stuff. So it's actually much better.
Yeah.
Um, my favorite room is the library, which is just below the mechanical room at the top, and we have a wood stove in there, a potbelly stove, and it's a cozy place to have a fire and read a book and look out the window. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is. In fact, let's see, let me put up a picture here.
Yeah, that's
Is
it. Yep.
That's it. I thought so. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, in between my visit in 2001 and my visit a couple of years ago, it changed a little bit for the better. Absolutely amazing. Let me get back to. All right. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank
that
you.
looks amazing. And I know beyond the lighthouse, you've done other work out there as well. So if you could tell us a little bit about what you've done with the oil house.
Sure. That was connected by a footbridge that was a little over 100 feet long, but it had been knocked down in a few storms. The most recent was the blizzard of '78, took out the middle section of it. And then the No Name storm in, what was that,
N-
1991
That was 91.
or two? Yeah, that took out the rest of the bridge. So they cut it down and hauled it away. But I had an engineer out there who worked for the Coast Guard, a retired fellow who came out and he said, you could use the pilings that are still there embedded in the ledge and grind them down and clean them up and weld new plates on them and build a new bridge. And because he said most of the money is in drilling those pilings, so we did that, and then we added another story to the lighthouse. We built that out of precast concrete, you can see in the picture there, and a new roof that was all timber frame. The roof is an identical copy of what was there, but it had been ripped apart. So we rebuilt a roof exactly similar, but we popped another story on. So we turned that room into a guest cottage. So below there's a queen size bed that folds down and some little stairs. And then the upstairs is one of the only rooms I've been in that's has windows on all four sides, and all of them look out over the ocean. So it's kind of pretty. You get the sunrise and the sunset. You get to see everything out there. So it's really nice place to hang out in an afternoon and watch the sunset and see the Boston skyline and see the planes coming in at Logan and the container ships coming in and the fishing boats. It's really a pleasant place.
Yeah. There was a lot of work going on the day I was there. You were bringing some of the lens components out by helicopter and everything, but still, so I was there on kind of a noisy day. But what an
Yeah.
incredible spot there on that oil house. It's
And there's a
fantastic.
family of seals that live out here, so they're always barking and moaning and nursing their babies. And we even saw one being born. It was just a really pleasant place. When you're
Mhm.
at the top, you can look down and see striped bass swimming around. And it's beautiful in a foggy day, and a rainy day, and a sunny day. It's really any weather. It's befitting a lighthouse, I think.
Yeah. I just want to mention people watching on YouTube and taking part in the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, although we may wait until towards the end to take the questions, but at any point, feel free to comment and ask questions. I just want to mention Space Cowboy 1812 just posted, though it's a lot of work, owning a lighthouse has to be one of the coolest things to own. There it is. It's on the screen. That's I'd say that's an understatement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of, you can't quietly buy a lighthouse, I learned, and just kind of sneak around it. If you go to a barbecue and anybody knows you, they're like, "Oh, that's the guy with the lighthouse," and then everybody starts talking about the lighthouse. So, we're good natured about it, and but after a while, you're just like, I just rather have a burger and talk about something else. But
Yeah.
everybody's so enthusiastic, genuinely. I always say, like, some people don't like dogs, some people don't like rockets, some people don't like hiking, but it's hard to find somebody who hates lighthouses, right?
I remember one time a guy telling me he hated lighthouses. He said they were stupid, but I think he was just saying that because he knew it would make me mad. I can't believe he really thought that. But one time in my life, I've heard somebody say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's always somebody.
So you kind of touched on it earlier, but tell me again, what is the electric source out there? How do you have electricity?
We've got solar panels on the roof of the little shed down on the dock,
Mhm.
and they and a small wind turbine make enough power to run all the systems in the lighthouse. And then the Coast Guard has another set of panels up top, and that runs the light and the foghorn and the
Mhm.
backup light. So it's nice that we don't have to haul any fuel out there and spill it and burn fuel and everything. The only exception is in the wintertime, we have a diesel heater because it would be almost impossible to make enough heat with the sun to heat the place. So we probably burn about 30 or 40 gallons of diesel every winter just to heat it when we're out there.
Mhm.
And then we have a wood stove too, which gets nice and toasty.
I'll bet. I should mention that our friend Ralph Kruglers is he's the man behind the curtain right now. He's helping out. Ralph works for the U.S. Lighthouse Society and is a Florida lighthouse historian. And he just asked a question. His question is there a Mariner activated foghorn there? And I imagine is how it works, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm. VHF radio, people can activate it if they want to hear it. It's
Yeah,
pretty much
but
all. Yeah, go ahead.
I just kind of, people do that on a sunny day and it's kind of annoying. I think they just do it just to
Yeah.
just to get on. Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah, at Portsmouth Harbor Light, which I'm very involved with, in the last several years, the only time you hear it is on a sunny day when pleasure boaters, somebody's just showing off what they can do. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I guess while we're on the topic of utilities, speaking of the fully functional bathroom with running water that you have, how does the plumbing work out there?
Well, we've got a line that goes into the sea and it pulls up seawater, and it's strained about with 5 different filters to get all the muck out of it, before it goes into the water maker. And then the water maker takes the salt out of the water, and it's quite tasty. And we make probably 100 gallons or more at a time. We don't make a lot because we don't want it to stand around all summer. So we make 100 gallons, use it, make another 100. And then we have 2 waste systems. One of them plumbs everything except the toilet, and that we can let out to sea because we don't use any harmful soaps or anything. We use biodegradable soap. So all it would have is soap and table scraps, going out in the water. And then for the toilet, we have a Coast Guard approved, it's called an MSD. I'm not even sure what it stands for, but it breaks down waste with a 3-stage process and little pellets that you put in, and it's safe to discharge. And we're off the 5-mile limit anyway, so that works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ralph just reminded me to don't forget to change my hats. So before I change my hat the next time, I just want to make sure it's clear what's on my hat right now. There you go. So hopefully people are paying attention because it's important at the end. If you want to win, you gotta pay attention to my hats. So Dave, you mentioned seals earlier. And I imagine there are times when there's a lot of seals out there. Are you kind of friendly with them? Do you give them names or anything like that?
The only one that had a name was named before we got there, and he was called the Beachmaster. And he was a gray seal, and he was twice the size of all the other ones. And I
Right.
think he'd been out there 17 seasons before we never saw him again. But he definitely ruled that place. He was up on the rock. He got the best rock, right? Nobody's going to argue with him about that. And he kept an eye on everybody. And then sometimes if he saw any kind of trouble, he'd slap his tail on the water as a signal, and that would kind of alert all the other seals that something might be going on. So he
Mhm.
was definitely the guard dog, as well.
Yeah. So he was the only gray seal, and the rest were harbor seals.
There's been other gray seals, but he was a sort of a
He was,
permanent resident almost.
yeah.
And gray seals sort of come and go nowadays, but the harbor seals are plentiful, and they
Hmm.
they don't have pups. It seems any one time of the year. It seems like you'll see a pup, even a little spotted, almost looks like a fawn color in the wintertime. Sort of a buff, beautiful color with little spots.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
they stick close to their moms. A lot of times when they're real small, their moms will put them up at low tide. They'll put them up in the rocks in a bed of seaweed, high and dry, and then the moms will go fishing because they're nursing, so they need to get a lot of calories. So they'll be gone for a few hours, and then they'll come back and collect their pup. Yeah.
How other wildlife and any interesting birds?
Lots of birds. Yeah, we have a resident peregrine falcon, and they're very territorial, and they like to hunt around dusk. So if you're outside during dusk, they'll yell at you a lot because this is their prime time to eat.
Yeah.
And we've seen there's a lot of shorebirds, obviously, that terns and gulls. We have a little book that we kind of quiz ourselves and look at them. And then because of the way it's offshore, a lot of birds will kind of, when they're migrating, they'll kind of over graves so that they're not over the land mass. So you'll see a lot of weird birds that don't seem like they belong, but we think they're just kind of en route to somewhere else.
Hmm. Hmm. Reminded me of one time I went to the top of the Custom House building in Boston, which many, many years ago was the tallest building in Boston for a while. But this was during a time when it was closed, and I knew somebody who snuck us up there. But there were peregrine falcons nesting on top of the Custom House, and they were circling around us. They were very angry that we were there. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get angry birds around the top of the lighthouse?
Oh yeah, the peregrine falcon just dive bombed me a bunch of times when I was out working on the railing outside. And it's kind of scary. I mean, they're not that big, but boy, they come
Yeah,
at you hard. Yeah,
I know. I know.
yeah.
I felt lucky to escape with our lives that day. Wow. Yeah.
Cool. Beyond wildlife, I guess our next question would be, have you been at the lighthouse for any big storms, and what was that like?
Yeah, we've been out in a number of storms, and we always go the day before when it's unusually calm, and we'll bring firewood and provisions and so forth. And we won't leave our boat there. We'll take the boat back. We'll have a captain take the boat back, and then
Mhm.
you're there for as long as you're there. As long as that storm is going, nobody's going to come and rescue you. So it's really fun to see just how powerful nature can be, and also to be out offshore and not in a boat. So the lighthouse doesn't move, but the air just thunders and concusses, and the waves are smashing. Some of them come over the top of the lighthouse, the spray, and you're just in this maelstrom, and it's so exciting. The air just hisses and pops and moans, and you feel high and dry and safe. Now that being said, we have the keeper's logs, copies of them from going all the way back to the beginning. And we've got stories of the third floor window being stoved in by a wave and flooding all the floors below. And that's 60 feet above the ocean, that window. So, yeah, we have extra storm shutters that we put on to double down on the protection for the windows. And so far, so good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading that Elliot Hadley, who was the first keeper, was experienced the wave coming through the window, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, was it? What did you say? Like 2/3 up the tower, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think the ledges, they rise up pretty steeply from the ocean floor. I think it very quickly goes to 80 or 90 feet just offshore on
Hmm.
the eastern side of the lighthouse. So they have a lot of water depth, and then they hit the ledge and just kind of explode.
Hmm. You see that here, lighthouse near me, Whaleback Lighthouse at the mouth of the Piscataqua River in Kittery, Maine, where I've gotten pictures. It's 70 feet tall, it's shorter than yours, but I've gotten waves, above the top of the lighthouse. They just
Yeah.
explode when they hit the rocks. Yeah. So let's talk about the lens, which is a huge subject in itself. In fact, you were on the podcast one time just to talk about the lens. It's absolutely incredible. So
Thanks.
first of all, the first sort of lens that was in the lighthouse for many years was moved in the 70s. In fact, I was in touch. I think I've told you this before, Dave, with Pedro Marticio, who was one of the last Coast Guard keepers there in the 70s, and he told me that there was a mercury leak because the lens did revolve on mercury bearing, and they had to remove the keepers for a while and fix that. Then they went back, but that was shortly before it was automated, I believe. But anyway, so the first sort of lens that was in there was removed and went to the Smithsonian in Washington, right?
Right. They disassembled it and they put it in crates, and then they put it in the Smithsonian, and they took out the rotating pedestal and all that mechanical equipment, which was even harder to take out than the lens. And they put that in crates, and it's at the Smithsonian. But to my knowledge, they've never displayed it, so it's just sitting in a warehouse somewhere. Um, kind of helping nobody, which is
Yeah.
sort of sad that museums need to just pack things away, never to be seen again.
Kind of
So
like
we were,
sorry, I was gonna say like the Lost Ark, kind of.
yeah, right, yeah, it's just a big warehouse full of stuff. So we thought, well, maybe we could call them and see if we could get it back, but then we were told, like, no, that they don't. It doesn't. It's not a two-way thing with them.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe we could find a couple of pieces of a lighthouse lens and put it in as a display. So we found a couple pieces and put them up, and it was really pretty. And then we found a couple more, and they were all first order from the Chance Brothers, which was the British manufacturer that made lenses. And sooner or later we found a few more, and then we found a guy who said, "I think I might be able to either make from pieces that I have or find the rest and make a complete lens." So we debated whether we wanted to do it, and then we thought, why not? Let's try. So it took about 10 years, and we found all the pieces. Some of them were loose lens pieces that he had found that were from a first order Chance lens, and he built the brass frames for them, which is an incredible feat to do all that. And we assembled it here in the room that I'm standing in right now, my sons and I, with some friends, and we got it all working and tuned up. And then we asked the Coast Guard if we could replace their little DBR 25 light that they've had out there for years with this. And to their credit, the Coast Guard said, "Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea." And so we've been working with them for the last couple of years, putting it all out there, wiring it up, and we're hoping that this summer we'll have it lit, and they're going to change the nautical charts. There we are. And hey, there you are, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And then put it back in use, which is what a lens is supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah. This picture is our friend Bob Trapani, director of the American Lighthouse Foundation, who, by the way, is going to be the guest in next month's live podcast. And me and you, Dave, right inside that lens when it was still in your home there. But here is a photo of the completed lens in the lantern room of the lighthouse. Pretty incredible.
Wow.
Awesome.
beauty.
The word awesome is overused, but this is awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. It's been quite a journey. Now, what you see there, the middle panel is covered with brass, and now since that picture was taken, the top panel above it, the upper cat and lower cat panels are covered with brass too, because the lighthouse shown a 3-4 flash pattern, and the Coast Guard had thought it looked a little too much like Minot's light, which is just down the street from us, about 9 miles, which is a 143. And so they didn't want it to people to be confused, because the entire purpose of a lighthouse is to signify exactly where you are, not kind of where you are. And so they had us block out one set of panels on each side, so it's a 3-3 flash now. So that's what it'll display as.
Yeah. In this picture, you can see the VRB 25 to behind and to the right of the lens. That's been the Activate to navigation for quite a few years now.
I like the difference between the two in that picture. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not, the VRB 25 isn't as tiny as it kind of looks in this picture. In fact, I have a picture. I can't bring it up right now, but when I was there in 2001, I had a picture taken of me behind the VRB 25. So the perspective in that one makes it look like the VRB 25 is like 6 feet tall, with me behind it. But anyway, it's all about perspective. So, maybe you already said this, Dave, but how long did it take you to put the lens together?
About 10 years.
10 years, give or take
Yeah.
a few days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I am like blown away by this. So cool.
Thank you.
Right. And like cool is an understatement on all of it, but how did you get the lens into the lantern room?
That was a logistical trick, especially having never done it before. We built wooden crates for each of the lens panels, and two people can carry a lens panel, so they're heavy, but they're not unmanageable. And we brought them out in my boat, and on a high tide, we were able to dock the boat right at our pier, and if it was calm, and then we would hoist it up to the deck, and then we built a winch and hoisted them all the way up to the top. Um, that was a lot of work to get them up to the top. And it had to be a still day because we didn't want them blowing around and on a 100-foot long line and then smashing against the tower. And then I built an elevator out of plywood and 2x4s to be able to bring them right up to the lantern room to the right height. And we built a wooden scaffolding in that room. But the harder part, though, was to build the pedestal. Now, the lens panels that we got didn't come with a pedestal, and it had to have a rotational device on it. So I went to Boone Island because my partner Bobby said that I could have the pedestal in Boone Island, which is a beautiful French pedestal from the 1800s. And they saved fewer pedestals than they did lenses, so they're actually rarer than lenses, I think. And I looked at the top of this 133-foot lighthouse and this maybe 2 or 3 ton cast iron one-piece pedestal, and I was like, I'm not getting this out of here. I think they might have built it into the room and then bricked it up beyond it. So that was a no-go. So we made one out of steel, and then we put some 3D printed cowlings around it to look like the same cast iron shape as the one at Boone. So it still has that feeling of a cast iron pedestal without the weight, and it was able to come apart. So we hoisted that up, and then I think the hardest part were the base pieces, and the Coast Guard generously allowed us to use their helicopter. Actually, they flew it as well. I didn't use the helicopter myself, and we were able to, with a couple of helicopters, get those pieces up inside. But that was one of those days that Jeremy was there that day. That was rough. Admiral Dan May was there too, which was fun to see him. He's been instrumental actually in cheerleading for us at the Coast Guard level to kind of push the buttons and move the levers and get everything cleared.
I'm going to interrupt for a second here because people in the chat are saying, like our friend Josh Liller from Florida just said he only not just now found the working live stream. Somebody else said for some reason there was another stream up and there were people waiting. So I hate to think that there were people waiting. Josh, how can you tell me in the chat how you found it, Josh? I actually tried to get on YouTube on my phone a while ago and I wasn't able to. So of course, if I say I apologize, the people waiting who can't get in can't hear me say that. So
I'm assuming the stream records as well too, so we might be able to send it out.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Some people don't have notifications turned on. 5 to 10 minutes. Josh says, noticed another video in the recommended videos below the chat. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I don't know. I guess we just plow through here, and for anybody who misses it, we'll be posting the the video of the whole thing. It could be something I did. It could be a problem with YouTube or you know, things. It's life in the big city, I guess. But
Hey, Jeremy.
yes, Ralph.
I've been headed up on YouTube for the past few minutes, and it says it's been streaming the entire time, so I'm not sure why other people
Yeah.
aren't getting it.
Yeah. I don't know. We need a 10-year-old kid to help us with this. That's what we need. We need to hire one of them. But anyway, everybody who's here, thank you for being part of this. And hopefully everybody who wants to see it will get to see it eventually, the recording. Okay. I know what I want to ask you next. In fact, I really want to know the latest news on this. I know that the Coast Guard approved a light in the lens, in the new lens, to be the aid to navigation. They approved it. It's got to be at least a couple of years now, right? But it
Yes.
still hasn't actually happened, right? What is the status of that?
Well, the status is we're working on it. There's been a kind of shuffling with the Coast Guard and their priorities lately, and they've had to do a lot of other things that are probably more important. So it might have fallen a little bit by the wayside, and we've had a few technical issues with the wiring and trying to get all the batteries and enough power to run it. So with that combination, it's kind of slowed itself up. The VBR 25 is still there and it's working, so it's still working as an aided navigation. But we're thinking that this summer is going to be the time when we get to have a little party, and hopefully you guys can come and visit and maybe have a lighthouse shaped cake and light it up.
Cool. You know, I would love that, but I got to say that I'm so glad I was able to visit there a couple of years ago with our friend, retired Rear Admiral Dan May, Coast Guard retired, who's also in the board of USLHS. But two of us went out there that day when some of the components of the lens, the base of the lens and everything were being hoisted by helicopter, which was quite a thing to see, because it was kind of windy that day, and you had a couple of guys up on the gallery at the top outside the lantern room, and the thing is swinging back and forth, and they're trying to catch it, and it didn't come that. It was pretty close to the glass a couple of times. It was kind of
Yeah, it was touch and go.
but also it got kind of squally when before we left, and it was not real smooth leaving. It wasn't bad getting on, but getting off that day was interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I get maybe a little apprehensive after that, but it was well worth it. That's for sure.
I'm glad you came.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Wow, I would love to check it out. I'll make the lighthouse cake. I'm
All
in
right.
Boston, so I'm close enough.
You could bring your dog if you want.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he would love it. Go to the keeper. He'll make his way out. That would be awesome. So, speaking of spending time there, do you and your family spend a lot of time at the lighthouse in the summer?
Yes, yeah, that's really when it's the most fun. And we could stay for many nights in a row, and we just bring the right amount of food. And sometimes friends will come by that have boats, and they'll stop by for an hour, or maybe for the afternoon. And sometimes we have overnight guests as well. And the tall ships are coming this year, so that will be a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
They anchor right around Graves before they go in for the night. So we have a lot of thousands of neighbors, you know, when the tall ships come. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I forgot about that. That's the 4th of July weekend.
No, it's the next week, the week after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I work sometimes, as Jeremy mentioned, maybe on our last stream of this. I have many jobs, and one of them is I helped open Break Rock Brewing in Marina Bay, so the brewery that's in Marina Bay. And I know that the tall ships are coming through there, and there's tons of programming and stuff around that. So that will be very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Just looking to see if we have any questions in the chat. I don't think so, because I think we may have some people waiting somewhere else in the chat.
We only have
Yeah.
answers in the chat and
Yeah.
solutions.
Right,
which is
right.
great.
Yeah. So let me ask you a big question, Dave. Okay, and this one's for bonus points. Of course, you know how it works.
Sure.
The bonus point question is, why does Graves Light need to be saved? You can take your time.
I think if we don't know where we've come from, we might not know where we're going. And I think that since most of us in America came by sea, a lighthouse welcomed them or their family to come here. And I think that the feeling they must have had when they made that journey from far away, a lighthouse was the first thing that some people saw, and they knew that they had made it to the new world. And I think there's something really special and spiritual about that. So I think that's worth preserving. And I think that might be one of the reasons why people love lighthouses so much. They might not even know it, but if you think about being in a perilous sea and then seeing not just a lighthouse, but the lighthouse that you were headed toward intentionally, there's that overwhelming feeling like we made it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's an important thing.
Yeah. An interesting metaphor, show us where we've been or where we're going. I mean, a lighthouse, that's what it's there for, to tell you where you're going.
That's the last thing you see when you're leaving, right? And the first thing you see when you're getting there.
Right.
Welcomes you and sends you out.
Yeah. I'm going to put up an interesting picture that I haven't shown yet. Let me put it up here, and tell us what we're looking at here, Dave.
That's a fisheye lens, which is kind of the only lens you can use to capture the whole room. But that room was the mechanical room when Graves had its original first order lens in it, and it had no windows. But when I visited you, Jeremy, up in Portsmouth, I noticed that the mechanical room had portholes in it. And
Yep.
I thought to myself, well, it looks like it's historically accurate in some lighthouses, and nobody wants a kitchen with no windows. So we made the executive decision to put some antique portholes, and they're big ones. They're from a steamship, to let light into the room. And then we built everything curved, as you can see. It kind of has to be, because you can't put a straight countertop in a curved room, or all your dishes are going to fall through the back and you'll never find them. So everything is curved, all the cabinets. And our brother-in-law, Carl, lives on Nantucket. He built that room and said it was one of the most challenging things he'd ever built because of just the geometry of it all. Hauling that slate countertop up was a bit of a trick too. So yeah, it's been a lot of work. The refrigerator, that's hard to haul up. Everything was hard. It all had to come in by boat.
Yeah, just put it back up again, because I was going to ask about the skylights or floor lights, I think they're sometimes called. Those all had to be refabricated, right? Those are
Most of them were smashed, but we recovered a couple of good ones, and we sent them to two women in Nantucket that had a glass foundry, and they cast reproductions of them, and we put them back in to let the light down through. They're really pretty.
Yeah, well, it's gorgeous. It's a really cool photo. At this point, let me get us back up on the screen here, and people, if they were paying attention, I know that may have been an issue for some people, but I've worn 3 different hats during this production. And if people in the chat can say what 2 of the hats I've worn, 2 of them, what was on 2 of the hats, then you win the prize, which is a U.S. Lighthouse Society baseball cap. So now is your chance to be the first in your block to have one of those. And I'm not seeing anybody jump right into it. Whoops. Yep, we have a winner. Space Cowboy is the winner. Good old Space Cowboy. Very good. He said Nantucket and Fire Island. I'm wearing a main cap now. Those are the 2 I wore earlier.
We do have a question in the chat as well.
Yep. Let me just. Yeah, we'll get that in a second. Oh, Sharon, my friend Sharon Mills from just across the river in Kittery, said Fire Island and Nantucket. A couple other people have answered too, but sorry, Sharon, you were a minute too late there. So Space Cowboy 1812 is the winner. If you could, whoever you are, Space Cowboy, if you email me at jeremy@uslhs.org. Again, Jeremy, I'll put it in the chat. You can email me and give me your shipping, your address, and we'll get a hat out, U.S. Lighthouse Society hat out to you. So there's my email address in there.
Oh, that's a very good question. I could answer that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on the screen from the chat. Weird question, but do these original air vents in the wall still let air in? Good question.
Yes. They do, and you open them when you need air originally to fuel the lamp itself because it used so much oxygen that you wouldn't want to starve it for air back when it was lit. But those had been covered when we bought the lighthouse by just a blank panel, and we didn't really know what they were for. We weren't quite sure what was going on there. And then I found a fellow that in Worcester that had some advertised from a first order lens lantern room in Boston Harbor. And I thought, well, there's only one, that's Graves. So I called him up, and sure enough, he had the ones from Graves that someone had taken out and sold it to him years ago. So I bought them back, and we put them back in the lantern room.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That reminded me something we didn't talk about that I think is a really cool story. The doorknob that was found on the bottom of the harbor.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
A friend of mine was diving at Graves. It's a popular dive site, and he found a doorknob, and he gave it to me. He said, "This is probably from Graves." And I thought to myself, well, doorknobs don't migrate, so there's a really good chance it's from Graves. And we didn't know. We were building the doors at the time, and there was one original door still there, but it was rotted and it didn't have any hardware on it. And so it was a white porcelain doorknob with a brass plate on it. And so it kind of proved that it had that type of doorknob there. So I went to a flea market and found a whole bunch and put them in, and now it has original style doorknobs.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. We have a question
we found broken pieces of lighthouse china in the cove, and forks and knives and lots of things from the lighthouse service, and strange things that we can't identify. So we just have boxes of weird old spark plugs and things like that.
You also found a cave in the ledge somewhere, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a cave, and there's 2 underwater caves you can swim through and out the other side.
And you've done that. You dive, right? Have you actually done that?
Yeah, I have a lobster license, so sometimes I'll go out and catch dinner for us, and sometimes I bring nothing back too. So it depends on the day.
Well, it's the journey though. That's the fun. We have a question from our friend Josh in Florida, and there it is. It's on the screen. Can you see that, Dave? How many keepers did the Graves have at once? 3 keepers, but rotating weekly. So one was usually ashore? ?
They had a crew of 4, and one was always on shore every week. So they had a week off, 3 weeks on. In the beginning, Elliot Hadley, who you mentioned, his son Elliot Hadley Jr. was there as well. So it was the 2 Hadleys and 2 other men. It was called a stag lighthouse because there wasn't room for people's families. So they got a little extra pay for that, and it was a lot harder actually, living there.
Remind me what your website is for people to follow along what's going on at the lighthouse.
It's graveslightstation.com, but we haven't maintained it in a few years. We got in a little heated argument with a town of Hull who tried to claim the ledge as part of the town, and it wound up being a lawsuit, and they started fining us, and they said they were going to take the lighthouse from us. And this is after we had done all this work on it. They were going to take it for non-payment of taxes, and they were going to fine us every day since we owned it $25,000 a day for not pulling a building permit. And they weren't messing around. So we prevailed and we won. But since then, it just kind of, it didn't break us, but it really harmed us. It sidetracked us from the money and effort that we were putting into the lighthouse to fix it. We had to siphon it away to fight this ridiculous lawsuit. And it turned out that they had no claim at all to it at all. It went back into maps from the 1600s, and there was never any mention of Graves being part of the town, but they persisted, and but we prevailed. So anyway, that's a kind of a dark chapter in a bright story, I'd say.
Well, it had a happy ending anyway.
Yeah.
That was nuts. I knew from the time they first said it was crazy. So glad people realized that it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. So I just want to mention too, you mentioned your website, graveslightstation.com, right?
Yes.
But I have a website on New England Lighthouses, newenglandlighthouses.net. And on there, newenglandlighthouses.net, I'll put it in the chat too. There's sections for every lighthouse in New England. So I have a pretty extensive history of Graves Light on there. And I also wrote a book on Massachusetts lighthouses, and there's a a long chapter in that as well, and that's
That's a great
going to be a
book.
new edition probably by next year, Dave. Of that, by the way.
Great,
Um,
right.
So I'm just
There was a
entering-
question about the lens, I think, that just popped up. I saw it and it went away.
Oh, what happened to the original lens?
Yeah. As far as I can tell, it's still in crates at the Smithsonian. They have it cataloged and it's got crate numbers. I think it's in like 10 crates or something like that, all the pieces.
The person asking that might have missed some of the conversation, but Dave actually built the lens that's in there now. It's a I don't think you like the term, but I sometimes refer to it as a Franken lens because it's from parts from various lenses.
Yeah.
That makes it sound like a monster, and that's it's too beautiful to be a monster. So
It's all pieced together properly. So they're all from the same manufacturer and they're from the same size lens. So everything fits right and optically it's correct, just as good as any first order lens.
yeah. Oh, it's a real thing of beauty.
Mhm.
So I think it's about 10 after the hour, and we're probably going to start winding things down. But I want to give people a last chance to ask questions. That includes you, Sarah, and Ralph. And I do want to mention. I just want to mention the U.S. Lighthouse Society website for people who I know there's members of the society here, and people are very familiar with it. For people who might not be. USLHS.org is the website of the society. And I'll put it up on the screen. There it is, USLHS.org. And you can get on there and learn all about preservation grants, the research catalog, which our friend Ralph is very involved with. He does a lot of work on that. And the quarterly journal, magazine, the Keeper's Log, and tours. The society does tours all over the world. And Sarah and I are actually going to be on a Down East Maine tour in June 6th to 13th. And again, Tina Hans and her husband Rick, I think, may be still in the chat, maybe watching, but they're going to be on that as well as tour leaders. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, June 6th to 13th. It's almost full, but there's still room. If people want to sign up, you can go to uslhs.org and look under travel and tours for that. Very easy to find the information. So I hope maybe somebody will sign up after hearing it here. And let's see, what else do I want to mention? I do want to mention that our next live stream will be I didn't write down the date, but it's the last Thursday in April. I think it's actually the 30th. And the guest will be Bob Trapani, director of the American Lighthouse Foundation, and also a lighthouse technician, expert on all things aids to navigation. At this point, again, I just want to make sure everybody, I turned off the chat here. Let me get it back on. See if there's any last questions. Ask them now or forever hold your peace. Well, Ralph asked, do you know where all the lens pieces that were gathered were originally, what lenses they were in? But I don't think you know that at this point.
I do know most of them, yes.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. They're mostly from Australia and the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
And the fellow that helped me source those, his name is Nguyen. He's a Vietnamese Australian, Tim Nguyen, and he was able to scrounge these pieces. Some of them he had to contact museums and trade for them that had storerooms full of things that they never displayed. And he found 2 barrels full of just the prisms under a gum tree in Perth that somebody had stripped all the brass off them and threw the lenses in a pile and the prisms. So he got those and he made new frames from those, and he really went over and above it what anybody I've ever seen do to try to put this thing together with original pieces. So he's definitely the guy you want to talk to if you want to scrap a lens together.
Somebody just contacted me, just emailed me and was asking about where can he buy a actual Fresnel lens. And I pointed him to, he had actually already been in touch with Tim. But I made the point that lenses in this country, the ones that are not still in lighthouses, the ones that are in museums and places like that are pretty much still owned by the Coast Guard. They still consider themselves the owners and they're on loan. So it's not easy to buy a US Fresnel lens at all.
No.
But it is some from Australia, and I know some from Iraq have been sold on eBay,
Yep.
and I think maybe some from some other countries, but pretty hard to get an American one.
Especially a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think at this point we can kind of wind down here. So Dave Waller, thank you so much. It's always fun talking with you.
Thanks for
And
having me, and Sarah too.
you're
This
so
has
welcome.
been so cool. I was excited. Jeremy and I met last week to kind of go over some stuff, and just watching that initial video, I was so excited to hear more. Obviously close to where I live, but all the restoration and everything. This is so cool, so interesting. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, we're all kind of local Boston people here right now. You actually live in Quincy, right? Just south of Boston, Sarah, right?
I'm in Dorchester.
Dorchester, you're close. Dorchester. It's pronounced Dorchester.
We'll count
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I work on the Boston Harbor, so we'll count that too.
Yep. And I've spent all my life around Boston. I'm in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It's only an hour away. But anyway, this is just great. As I said, it's just always fun to talk with you, Dave. And I can't, I know I keep saying it, how incredible it all is, but I'll say it again. It's
It is.
incredible. So
Oh, you're very kind.
congratulations. Congratulations on all that's been accomplished and continued success, and happy spring and summer this year. Have some fun out there, and hope maybe
Thanks.
we'll see you for the celebration out there.
Sure.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight, and sorry about the problems we had earlier. It will be, one more question before we sign off. Lightworks 3D was asking, is Dave's email out there so I could contact him? I've been wanting to 3D model Graves' lantern and watch room. Can you tell us your email address, or tell him where to get it?
Yeah, it's easy. It's Dave at neonwilliams.com.
Dave at neonwilliams.com. Okay. I don't think that's the one I'm familiar with, but I'm sure it works. Dave at neonwilliams.com. So I hope Lightworks 3D got that, but if not, contact me and we'll get it to you. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave and Sarah. It was a lot of fun, and we'll see everybody next month. And I know one more thing, and I'll let you do the honor, Sarah. Let me change my hat here. But to everybody, for all our regular listeners and our new ones and viewers, thank you so much for watching and listening. And
keep a good light.
There we go. I was a little slow there. All right.
Oh,
it's official
next
now.
time I should say it when you put the hat on. We'll work on that.
We'll work on the timing next time.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Take care. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light